crisis, the City of Columbia closed fire engine companies 8 and 9 at the Shandon and Atlas Road stations. I opposed that decision because I believed, as I still believe, that you don't balance the budget on the backs of our first responders. These are difficult economic times, and we have some tough decisions to make. But we must remember that nothing is more important than protecting the lives and property of our citizens. Today we see emergency response times getting longer, a fact underlined in a study released by the Columbia Firefighters Association last month, which showed that fire response times have dropped 27% below the national average, national standard. That is unacceptable. We ask these men and women to protect our homes, our lives, and the lives of our families. We can't ask them to do that with one hand tied behind their backs. I'm not going to wait for some disaster to teach us that lesson. So today I ask you to join with me in calling on the mayor and city council to restore the city fire department's funding and immediately bring these two engine companies back online. Closing the Shandon and Atlas Road engine companies shows a misplaced set of priorities and highlights the need for new leadership. It shows a failure to see that cutting public safety has real consequences. In this case, response times have slowed down, and any firefighter can tell you that minutes and even seconds can be the difference between life and death. Also, without these engines, our firefighters enter a potentially deadly situation without a full team because their support crews are smaller. That means more danger to life and property and more danger to our firefighters. Furthermore, failing to meet Columbia's public safety needs has financial consequences. It hamstrings our ability to recruit new businesses, it keeps us from creating the new high-paying jobs we need, and it drives up the cost of homeowners insurance. I say it's time for a broad refocusing of our budget priorities on the core mission of our city government. We must fund basic services first. I say it's time to treat our first responders and the police and fire departments as the heroes that they are and support them. It's time for new leadership. Some politicians like to talk about how much they support public safety during an election. I say it's time to put up or shut up. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Steve, the fire department, just like all the other departments in the city, they had to absorb $1.2 million in additional health care expenses for employees, and that's why they had to make these cuts. If you were Chief Anderson or the mayor at the time, how would you have cut the department's budget if not doing what they did here?
Well, that's a good question, Adam. That challenge is not unique to our city. It's happening all around the country. When you're dealing with tough budget times, as I did as director of probation and parole, when we had a 950 employee agency and a $43 million budget, when you're dealing with the leaner times, that's when it's even more important to understand your mission and which are core services you're supposed to provide on. The city's challenge is the city has to establish a real strategic plan and establish what its priorities are. Once you establish what your priorities are, you fund your priorities first. Once you fund your priorities, whatever's left just doesn't get funded. Our challenge is that even faced with the incredible increase in health insurance, we should still find a way to fund the fire department budget. And I think it's just someplace you can't cut.
Do you think they should have cut somewhere else?
I think the city needs to seriously look at every expense it has, and I think we need to look at ways in which we can run a more accountable and efficient government. The challenge that we have is that we have to do it with a focus on our initial priorities. We need a safe city. That's number one priority. We need a clean city. We need a city that's focused on creating jobs and economic development. A safe city comes first. That's a core responsibility of a city government. If we can't do that, then we got a real problem with our priorities.
Do you think that we've gotten to this point where we have to shut down two fire departments because of neglect in the city's budget over the last several years, and that's why we're at this point?
Well, certainly not keeping our eyes on the ball has made the cost cutting that much more severe. But again, even in these tough and lean budget times, we're still dealing with well over $200 million in revenue. It comes down to, again, just setting priorities. And there's no priority It's more important than than funding police and fire protection for our citizens. So certainly, the challenges and mismanagement over the last several years have contributed more so to the pain we have here. But it just requires us to refocus even more so on our priorities. And this has to become a priority. Well, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all taking the time to be here today. And I guess welcome to join us on the tour.